Shane Murphy here, entrepreneur and restaurant marketing expert. Welcome to the Restaurant Rocket Fuel podcast, where we discuss marketing strategies that leading restaurateurs are using to grow and expand their restaurants. This podcast is sponsored by Boostly, the text marketing company that works with every point of sale and online ordering vendor in the industry. No contracts, no monthly fees. Learn more at boostly.com.
All right, Shane, you're back again from Boostly. Welcome to the podcast once again.
Yeah, excited to be here. It's always fun to chat with you.
Thanks for doing this again. I appreciate you. Where are you located in the world, by the way?
Utah.
Nice. I see the background you got going there. Looks very nice over there.
Back in the middle of a couple different mountain ranges. One side of the building we have mountains. The other side we have mountains. It's a beautiful place to be right now.
That's great. So Shane, you're from Boostly. Obviously, do text message marketing for restaurants, pizzerias. I think we talked before we got on the podcast here about the last time you were on the podcast was, well, you were on the podcast not too long ago, but the last time you were on the podcast and we really said, all right, this is like the introductory podcast to text message marketing was a year ago. So what's changed in the last year that you've seen when it comes to text message marketing?
Yeah, texting has been around for a long time, but there hasn't been a lot of new movement in the space of how people text, what types of content they text. It's always been very similar throughout year after year after year. And
that's true.
I think that's been one of the big changes is people realize I have to do things a little bit differently than I did in the years past to really keep my customers' attention, keep them coming back at a higher rate instead of just being like a billboard.
Yeah.
To customers and letting them know that I'm here. And so the way that people need to engage their audience has somewhat changed. You have to be more tailored, you have to be more engaging, and the mass marketing approach of the past isn't the most effective in SMS like it used to be.
So you're saying like when people first start with text message marketing, I think they probably think, all right, I have whatever, a number amount, 100, 500, 1,000. I'm going to create one message and I'm going to just send it to all of them. That's how they start. At least to me, that's what I think they start with. And you're saying that that's okay. But as we move forward, it's more like, all right, of those 100 people, maybe 25 order on these days, maybe 50 order this thing. And you can tailor text message to those specific people. So it means more to them when they get it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the way to think of it. Most people, all they know that is possible is I have my list of opted-in subscribers, and I want to send them a message. And maybe it's a 10% off promo, and everybody gets the same thing. But in that audience, 10% of them have ordered in the last 2 weeks. Maybe 30% of them have ordered in the last few months, and then the remainder maybe haven't ordered in 6 months or more.
Right.
And if you were to just intuitively think through it, the people who haven't ordered in a really long time, you could probably get them to order if you send them something different from everybody else. And you probably want to send something different to the people who ordered 2 weeks ago versus 3 months versus 6 months. And historically, that's just been very difficult for people to do because most text marketing systems, it's all up to the operator and they don't have time. They don't have the resources or the bandwidth to say, hey, I'm going to put together this really comprehensive marketing campaign and I'm going to tailor it to people and I'm going to figure out who's ordering when and where, and tracking all of that is a logistical nightmare and not really possible for someone who's in the business all the time.
I tell you what, that's interesting you say that, because if say the pizza shop down the street from me send me a mass text out and it was like, hey, we're having this whatever go on today, I would look at it and I wouldn't be upset, But if that same person texted me and was like, hey, Bruce, it's been 3 weeks since you last ordered. How about pizza tonight on me? And it was like Jim, owner of XYZ Pizza. I'd be like, I kind of feel guilty. I kind of feel like I would have to go into that pizza shop to order pizza because he sent me a text personally.
Yeah. And that's the difference between, I think, what has always been done in the past versus what is possible now. And it's just a better way to market. It's more personalized. It's more tailored. It actually causes the consumer to take actions that they otherwise wouldn't. These people like you, otherwise they wouldn't follow you in the first place.
Right.
But it's different. There's a difference between, hey, this person likes me, and when they see my text, they say, yeah, I like those guys, and then move on with their day, versus, oh, there's a relationship that I'm starting to have with this pizzeria. I'm going to order there tonight, and I'm going to call up my buddies, and we're going to have a pizza party.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I don't know if my phone number, because I'm out in the public eye a little bit, is out there. But I've been getting a lot of text messages from just businesses and random things that I didn't before. And I'll give you two examples of one that was not great and one that was pretty good. And I didn't sign up for either one of these. Politicians, right? Politicians are notorious for texting you regardless of what your affiliation is or whatever, right? So as soon as I get those, I just like delete, reply, stop. Another one I didn't sign up for. I have no idea how they got my number. But it was for a pool service company. It was like they do pool liners for pools. I don't think I've ever used this company before, but they sent me a text message and it was like kind of relative to the kind of pool that I have. Well, it was very relative to the kind of pool I have, but wasn't necessarily in the market for what the product was at that moment, but it was relative to me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save that for the future when I do need that, because I don't need it right now, but I know I'm going to need that product in the future. And I didn't sign up for that text, but it ended up kind of working, because I probably will call that company in the future if I need that product or when I need that product, because it was relative to what I have.
Yeah. And that's just like a small scale of what we mean when, if you can do some form of behavioral based marketing with SMS, the effectiveness just skyrockets. It is effective, even if you're mass texting, but it's like, this is the scale. It's maybe 25% effective, but if you can get that to 80 or 90% effective, like that's where the targeted messaging really matters. And that's something that over the last year or two at Boostly, we have really focused on honing those types of muscles. We've focused on how do we, make this content more engaging to the consumer. Send the same number of texts you always had, but just get more revenue because it's more engaging to the customer, or it's just more tailored. And so that's a big part of our company. We pull customer data from every possible source. Like any point of sale we work with really well, any online ordering provider, your reservation system, your phone vendor. We tie into all of these so that we know more about the customer. We know when they've last ordered. We know how frequently they're engaging, and we can split them up a little bit and start to target them differently and send different content if you haven't ordered in a while. And that just matters, in really significant ways when it translates to dollars in the bank account for that pizzeria. And same thing, if we can make the content more engaging, like have people almost like play a game to get the offer or things, people get really excited about that, and it builds this loyalty, and people end up spending more, which at the end of the day is the reason you're probably wanting to do text marketing.
100%. It's way easier to get your existing customers who know you to order again, or a higher average, than it is to get a new customer.
Absolutely.
That all sounds amazing, but like if I'm a pizzeria owner, my thought process is probably like, I don't know how to do any of that. What do I do?
Yeah. And that's exactly why like a company like Boostly exists, is because we've kind of built all the software and the technology to make it a plug and play experience. So if you were a pizzeria and you're having that thought today of like, man, this all sounds great, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do this, and I don't even know where to get started.
Yeah.
Someone enrolls with Boostly, and we do a single call, and all of it can be automated. We tie into all your data sources. We identify different promotions that fit with your menu, your demographic, and then you can push play. And our system does all the work. It segments your customers. It sends the messages. It tweaks it on an ongoing basis on who's getting what. and it layers in different engagement strategies based on when has this person typically ordered in the past, and how do we get them to do it again?
And how much time? So if I'm an owner and I say, all right, I'm going to go Boostly, I'm going to give you a call. We hop on that call. We kind of go over it. Want to get started. How much time do I need to invest as the owner moving forward?
Yeah. So your initial onboarding call is probably going to be 30 minutes or so.
Yep.
And that's the heaviest upfront investment of time, is that 30-minute call, because then we set up all the automation where it can just run on its own on an ongoing basis, and you can see the weekly reports. They'll come through email, so you can see, oh, this is how many transactions this brought in, how much revenue it brought in. This is all great. And then only if you need to send an ad hoc message because it's a special holiday that's not in the automation or something, you can go in and send it in 15 seconds. But then on a quarterly basis, we actually have a team of marketing experts in-house that analyze all your data, look at all the trends, and on a quarterly basis, they'll sit down with that operator for 30 minutes to pull the curtain back and say, here are our suggestions on how to optimize this. This is what we would do. Are you good with that? And you just say yes or no, or ideate together. But we have a team that's specifically built to take all of that off of your plate.
Got it. I think too, text is easy because, well, that's not easy. Don't get me it's easy to do. I think it's easier than sending an email. And I think a lot of people get stuck with email marketing because they don't know what to say in that email, and they get stuck with the message. Whereas text it could be just short and sweet, right? It doesn't have to be this long love letter. It could just be a couple of sentences, if even that long.
Yeah, and that's actually what consumers want. They don't want. They're not going to read the whole message.
I would love for emails from pizza shops to be like, here, Bruce, here's your deal. That's it. End it there. I don't need to know the life story. I
think the relationship comes through the experience that you have with the brand. The relationship doesn't come through the text. It's how is the experience? How's the service? How's the food? And then the text marketing is it's an accelerant to a good business. I always tell people marketing isn't going to save a bad business,
right?
But it can act as an accelerant for a business that has all of the fundamentals in place, take good care of their customers, care about their food and their quality, and then marketing can help accelerate the business and increase your purchase frequency.
Yeah, I think text is good too, because of all the marketing ways that you can do it, text is probably one of the easier ones to rate the return of that investment, right? Because if you send a text out, you kind of know, all right, it's almost like what direct mail was back in the 90s.
Yeah, you send out that direct mail piece and then you see people coming in, see people using it. One of the historic challenges with all of marketing in restaurants is just tracking, hey, I feel this is working. And you can get a good sense for it just by observing the business. But sometimes it's hard to know.
Exactly what it is.
I spent $1. How many dollars came in on top of that? And that's the other part that Boostly has always been really committed to, is making sure that for every single dollar you spent exactly how much revenue came in. And we track it. Your point of sale tracks it. Your online ordering tracks it. It's just this undeniable number that, great, I spent $100 and I got $1,250 on top of what I spent. That's the power of bringing all these things together. And that's really why, Boostly, we only do texting for restaurants. We don't do this for, doggy daycare and dental companies and the pool guy. We specifically have tailored the product to solve some of these big challenges that restaurants have, where you have a lot of data sources. And especially in the post-COVID world, there's more data on your customers that exist in, the 10 different software vendors that you have. And then you also have your offline component of people who have never ordered online or placed a reservation. They just come and swipe their credit card. And you need something that bridges the gap between your online and your offline business and allows you to actually track what's working and follow that customer and tailor the marketing. And that's really what Boostly was built to do, specifically for this industry.
Especially if you have a business that caters to a younger demographic. Texting's got to be a no-brainer. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. I always think of my kids, because my kids are like at that age, that late teens, early 20s, and like texting to them is just how they grew up. It's not how we grew up. Well, I don't know how old you are, but it's not how I grew up. Like, I grew into it, but I didn't grow up with it. But my kids grew up with it, and they would prefer, they're never answering a call. They don't even answer my call. They'll hit the X button and then text me. Like, what do you want? I'm like, this is what I want. They're not going to answer my call. So especially if you are a business that caters to a younger demographic of people, it's got to be something that you do. And I like the fact that you can send it a text and you know exactly how much money you got back from it. So it's like very transparent with the ROI. Whereas email can be, if you have it integrated with your point of sale system, but a lot of people don't. They just use like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact or something like that, and they send out an email, and then stuff comes in, but they can't match it because it doesn't really go into the point of sale and see. And then obviously social media, people have a tremendously hard time figuring out the ROI from social media, because it's not something that like directly leads to sales. So I think text messaging is like the only thing right now that works that directly leads to sales that you can see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting thing too, because you can hear all of that and still think like, man, I'm the type of person who never wants to receive a text from a business. Texts annoy me, or things like that. That's a common thing, especially if you've owned your pizzeria for 30 years, and it's like, hey, this seems somewhat invasive.
Yeah.
But what you're describing is like that generation that is now getting into adulthood and beyond, that grew up with texting as their primary, most direct form of communication. And there is a right way and a wrong way to do text marketing. To use your pool example, like, that was more effective than like the political campaign.
Right.
And the political campaigns actually get like a federal like grace, where they're like, hey, they aren't opted in, you can text them. It's kind of a weird dynamic. Technically, unless you are a registered political party, you're not supposed to text people on an ongoing basis, anything marketing related, without their consent.
Seriously?
And, yeah, it's actually against the federal law. It's called the Telephone Consumer Protection Act.
Wow.
And it's actually against the federal guidelines, and the fines get pretty big, where it's like up to $500 per message that was sent.
So if they send it to 100,000 people, it's $500 per one of those messages.
Yeah, it's massive, and it can put small businesses out of business if they do it incorrectly. Some people walk that line, probably like the pool guy, where they're like, nobody's going to complain, I'll take my odds, and if they do, like, I'll apologize and we'll be good.
Yeah.
But there have been like bad actors, or even some good actors, who are like, this is too much, and they sue a business, and it's really hard. And so you have to really manage getting people's consent, because that's how you do it correctly. Because think about it as well. If you have, let's say over the last year, you've had 5,000 different people come and purchase pizza at your pizzeria. Like, not all 5,000 want to receive a text.
Right.
And so you have to facilitate them saying, I'm the type of person who wants to hear from you, and I will act on it when you text me. Otherwise, it annoys your customers, and it can get really, really expensive really quickly without the benefit if you're just texting everybody.
I was going to say that must be a huge part of it too. Like if you have 5,000 potential customers and only 1,000 are like, I want that text, that saves you 4,000 texts you don't have to send.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that pretty much every text marketing system out there works in restaurants is you put a physical sign in the store that says like text pizza to 55678. And that's how you join the text club, and people kind of see that sign and they say, yeah, I'm that person, I want to opt in. But that takes years to build up any type of like sizable audience that can actually generate revenue for the business. And this was one of the very first core problems that Boostly set out to solve, like years and years, coming up on like a decade ago.
Wow.
When we were like, hey, there is a better way to do this. Let's manage this process and build the technology to do this, where we can take all of your customer data, we can, get people's opt-in consent so that literally on day 2 of using the system, you're texting hundreds or thousands of people who raise their hand and say, I want these texts. And then as new customers come in, we facilitate that in real time for them. But you don't want to text just everybody. Text the people who want it, the people who care about it. One, it's following the law. And 2, it's just a better way to market. And then from those people, our system segments it a little deeper. Who's like engaged, who's disengaged, who had a positive experience, who had a negative experience, and really facilitate the marketing based on those things. And we've tried to just package that up in a like automated system that can just run and bring you reliable results week in and week out.
I like that. And I like the fact that you kind of give the business a little bit of a jump start, because I do think people want to get started with text, but they have that preconceived notion that, all right, I'm going to put the QR code on my menu or on the box or wherever they're going to put it to get customers, and they're just going to like trickle in, and they're going to be like, all right, I've been doing it for 4 weeks. I got 7 people on my list.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to make a difference in their business to text 7 people. I mean, listen, 7's better than 0, but it's not going to make a significant difference in your business if you text them. But you're saying you guys can jumpstart them to get them hundreds of people who are already in their database.
Yep, absolutely.
Which is huge because, like you said, you can start on day 2, and all right, a lot of people need lunch sales or business right now, and they can be like, all right, at least I have 200 people who I could text right now, and if the ratio or if my message is good and it's relevant, maybe I can get 10, 15, 20 to order this week that maybe wouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're able to do even fun things that just put the return really in the restaurant's favor, where often when we send out a text, we're able to tell who is engaging with that text and who like clicks a link to go redeem but never actually redeems. Because let's say you send a message to 1,000 people, you might have 100 people who go and redeem that offer, but you may have had an extra 100 people who like viewed it, they looked at it, maybe they like shared it with their spouse, but then they never actually followed through and took action. We can see that, and then one day before that's ready to expire, send them a reminder and say, hey, that coupon's about to expire. Tomorrow, come in and use that. And instead of sending that to the rest of the 1,000 people who didn't redeem it, send it to just the people who raised their hand and like showed an intent to use it. So at that point, instead of sending like and spending the money to text 900 people, you text the 100 who didn't redeem but showed interest, and you go and get like 25 of those people to go and use it. And so it's the difference of spending like $8 versus $100 to send something, but you just got like, I don't know, 25 orders times whatever your average ticket price is, like $20 for spending a really small amount.
I like that.
That's what this type of system can do when you make it more tailored and focused on the consumer.
That's great. And I wonder too, if you can even go a little bit deeper and be like, all right, this customer always orders at, 6 o'clock. And like, let's text them at 2, because they're probably thinking about what they're going to do for dinner 4 hours before they usually order. And maybe we can put a little spark in their brain about ordering from us.
Yeah. Because there's this eating algorithm that we all have as just human beings, where there comes a moment when it's like, I'm hungry. And now my mind is saying, I'm hungry. Where do I want to eat? Well, what are the top 5 places that come to mind first? I'm going to pick one of those.
Yeah.
That might be something that's either close to me, something that I just really enjoy. And there's this algorithm that happens. And what texting is all about is, because of the real-time nature, you can have an instantaneous impact on that individual's algorithm when you do something like that, where it's like, hey, they always order at 6, text them at like 4 o'clock before they're even thinking I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, maybe I am starting to get hungry.
What are we doing for dinner
It sounds really good.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And so it's all about, how do I get into that top 5 and stay there consistently so that I go there more often and use like urgency as a factor to say, hey, this thing's going to expire if I don't use it. We better go, instead of like the traditional. There's a difference between like loyalty and this type of marketing. Loyalty is very passive, where I'm going to eat on my own cadence, and I'm going to choose this place maybe over the place next door because I'm working towards an upcoming reward, but it's not going to get me to purchase more frequently.
Right.
Or eat out more frequently. Texting, because the real-time nature and the things that you can do with it actually cause people to eat out more frequently and increase their purchase frequency, in addition to like the loyalty factor.
Yeah, I wish businesses texted me more when they have specials or offers going around, especially the ones that I like to go to, you know? I wish they did. Unfortunately, the ones around me don't. We should hook them up with you.
Would love it.
I gotta go drop a card off at their counter and be like, you know what you should do? You should really just text me when you have. This company does a really good job at that. Go give them a call. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think
channel Bruce putting cards in his local pizza.
Hey, this is a great pizza. You know what you should do? Next time you have a deal, text me. Use this company right here. I'll do that. Give me some cards.
Done.
Where should people go if they want to sign up? I think this was a good episode. They're probably going to get some people to go and want some inquiry, want some information about how they can get started. Boostly.com, just the main website?
Yep, that's it. Boostly.com, like B as in boy, OOSTLY.com. And essentially right on there, they can request like a short 15 to 20 minute web demo.
Yeah.
We'll actually walk them through the whole thing. We'll identify their data sources, and on that call, give them a really good idea of, hey, if you were to use Boostly based on the data that you have, this is the type of impact and amount of revenue you should expect literally your first week using the system.
Wow.
So they can make an informed decision, no questions asked.
And it's like pay as you go, right?
Yeah. So like no contracts, no like setup fees. They can just come use it and pay per text essentially.
I like that too, because it almost seems like you know it's going to work for them. So you're like, all right, like it's going to work for you. So just sign up. Like there's no reason for us to have a contract, because if you use it, you'll get money back.
Yeah. And it aligns the incentives. We know if this isn't working for you and you don't see the revenue, you're not going to send any texts.
Right.
And so it aligns the incentives so that we are incentivized to make sure they have success. And if we're not bringing them revenue, they should fire us.
There you go. You said it first. All right. Boostly.com, Boostly.com. We'll link it up in the show notes. But go check it out. Try it out for yourself. Like you can't go wrong. You're going to sign up. You're going to send some texts, and then it's going to get revenue right back in that first week. So I think you should definitely start. If you've been on the fence about text marketing, go for it, because I'm telling you right now, as time goes on, text marketing is more and more and more acceptable every single day. So go check it out, Boostly.com. Shane, thank you so much for hanging out with me again today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Restaurant Rocket Fuel. And thank you to the amazing restaurateurs that work so hard to provide an amazing guest experience for our communities. Again, this podcast is sponsored by Boostly. To see how we can drive more revenue to your business, visit Boostly.com. Don't forget to subscribe and go out there and maximize the potential that you and your business have in front of you.